American consumers are being asked to tip a lot these days, and not just at traditional places like restaurants. But when and why has the tipping environment changed, and how should we navigate it? For insight, we spoke with Michael Lynn, a professor of consumer behavior and marketing at Cornell University, and Lizzie Post, a writer and etiquette expert at the Emily Post Institute. So, how did the pandemic change our general approach to tipping?
Well, from a consumer perspective, people became more generous. I think for a couple of reasons. One, service providers were facing an increased risk and they kind of deserved hazard pay. But also, we were aware that they weren't getting as much business and therefore as many tips as previously, and we felt the need to kind of compensate for that.
How has the increase in digital tip options impacted tipping?
The prevalence of those tip screens when we emerged from all of our lockdowns and everything really did put a lot of pressure, and I think created a little bit of confusion for a lot of Americans. You were starting to see tip screens in places where you weren't typically prompted for it. And I think having to actually go through the action of saying, no, I do not want to leave a tip, that's where we started hearing a lot of people getting uncomfortable.
When you talk to businesses and employees of businesses that have adopted these new digital technologies, they'll tell you that their tips have increased. But there's no good scientific data on this, in part because although once you adopt the technologies, you've got good records of tips after the fact, but you don't have good records from before to compare it with. But the anecdotal data we have is, I think, reasonably persuasive, and it suggests that, yeah, people are tipping more because of the increased request for tips.
What is tipflation and how has it affected tipping habits?
When people use the term tip inflation, they're referring to the creep upward in the amounts that people are expected to tip. This is something that's been going on a long time. We used to tip 15%, then 20%. Now, arguably, generous tip is 30% in restaurants. There's nothing new about it, except perhaps the pace at which it's going up. It does seem like it's faster and faster, the increase in expected tips. That's in part because the new technology allows people to put recommended tips, and the research says that the larger the amount you ask for, the more you get. And so people are asking for more, and the presumption, not necessarily true, but the presumption is that that's kind of the new norm.
So when do we have to tip?
For the discretionary moments where you're feeling the pressure. Again, this isn't a sit-down restaurant moment. This is the cafe moment. This is the grabbing your coffee moment, the sandwich shop moment. I think it's worthwhile to think about your practices before the pandemic and still apply them now. And again, with that caveat of you can always tip more if you find yourself in a position of being able to, if the service was amazing. When it comes to restaurants, it's a little bit of a different zone. Restaurants, you're really expected to tip. And for a long time at Emily Post, we have said it's not appropriate to walk out of a restaurant with less than 15% left as the tip. That this is really a minimum. It's not an option.
What factors should come into play when you're trying to determine how much to tip?
Determining how much of a tip to leave within those ranges is really about thinking about the location and the service and the order. Did you just ask for like an 18 instruction latte during the rush hour of morning, like the morning rush? That's when I'm probably going to leave something on. If you get a small coffee to go, no big deal, quick in and out, that's one where maybe if you don't have the extra change on you, you choose not to.
For the PBS NewsHour, I'm Nicole Ellis.